Much. Joining us now on the phone to talk about his standing in the polls is none other than the frontrunner, Donald Trump. Mr. Trump, thanks for calling in. You're up 6 points from our last poll. You're leading the Republican pack at 18%. Your reaction?
Well, I just heard, and I just see by the crowds we have. Yesterday I was in Iowa. We had a tremendous crowd, 1,500 people, and it was a beautiful group of people, and they were so enthusiastic and standing ovations, and they want to see the country be great again. And frankly, I can't say I'm unhappy or anything. I'm not that surprised because I see the kind of a crowd we get. We're getting the biggest crowds, and we're getting by far the biggest ovations. And they want to, these are great people, and they want to see this country turned around. Our country's going, I want to be nice by saying in the wrong direction, but much worse than that. So, I will bring it back. I'll bring back jobs from China and all these other places that are ripping us off, and I think that's what people want to see.
Now, there have been questions about whether or not you would run as an independent if you don't get the nomination. You seem in recent days to be dialing that suggestion back a bit. You said you've been talking to the head of the Republican National Committee about your candidacy as a Republican, about your feeling that they need to be more impartial. What are they telling you?
Well, I've had some great conversations over the last few days, and they're terrific people. I've known Reince for a long time, and he's a terrific guy, and the group in there is really good. But, they view me as an outsider, I guess, and now they're starting to view me not as an outsider because I'm leading in all the polls, not just yours. And I think they've been really nice over the last few days. They're starting to see what's happening. There's a movement going on. This is more than me. This is a movement going on. People are tired of these incompetent politicians in Washington. They can't get anything done. They can't make deals. They can't do anything. They go and all they care about is getting elected. They don't care about anything else. And they know that, I built an incredible company, and, a lot of people, including yourself, but a lot of people thought that I wasn't going to be running and I wouldn't put in my financials. I put in my financials there much better than anybody ever thought. People said, oh, well, maybe he's not as rich as everybody thinks he was. Well, it turned out I'm much richer. And I built a great company. It has nothing to do with my being rich, but I built a great company. And, I wrote a book that was the #1 best-selling business book and many bestsellers. And The Apprentice was a tremendous success.
Right.
And I told NBC I'm not going to do it again. I told them nobody does that, to turn off a money-making show like that, but I do it. This costs me a lot of money, but I want to see our country be great again.
Right.
And we have a chance to do it.
So let me ask you, this is, without question, a great poll for you. It does, however, if you dive deeper into the numbers, it does show some weaknesses, potentially, with the general electorate as opposed to with Republicans, and you lose to Hillary Clinton in a head-to-head matchup. What do you think you need to do to turn those numbers around?
It's just step by step. Honestly, it's step by step. I haven't focused on Hillary. In fact, yesterday in Iowa, I made some very strong statements about Hillary, really for, I wouldn't say the first time, but they were strong. And the fact is that what she's done is criminal. What she has done is criminal. I don't see how she can run. Because if the prosecutors, who are all Democrat, by the way, and that's, part of the problem with fairness here, they're all Democrats, so they're protecting her. But if you had an impartial prosecutor and they were honorable, and maybe they are, we're going to find out. But what she's done is criminal.
What exactly are you saying is criminal?
What she did is far worse than what General Petraeus did, and he's gone down in disgrace. What he did is not as bad as what Hillary Clinton did. And it's similar, but it's not as bad. She got rid of her server. He never did anything like that.
But Mr. Trump,
she did it after getting a subpoena from the United States Congress.
What are you saying that she did is criminal?
We'll see what happens, but I think Hillary's got a lot of problems. But you have to understand with me, it's step by step. When you and I spoke 3-4 months ago, I wasn't even going to be in the contest, according to various people. And now I'm leading easily in a lot of the races because people are sick and tired. So with Hillary, I think I'll beat Hillary easily. I think I will beat Hillary. I don't think these other guys will.
So let me just to clarify, what exactly are you charging that Hillary Clinton did is criminal? You're talking about this email news?
I'm talking about the whole email scandal. It's a scandal. She's been protected. It's been amazing to me how she's been protected. Even the fact that the Times changed their story. I respect the Times for going after her like that, but even the fact that they changed the story upon their request, I think they were more right the first time. But whether it was the first time or the second time, what Hillary did is criminal. And
I don't think it was a criminal.
Whether or not that takes her out of the race. But in theory, she shouldn't even be in the race. Now, whether she is or whether it's a guy like Sanders, which is hard to believe, but whether she is in the race or not, I go step by step. I'm not thinking too much about Hillary right now. I'm thinking about a man who's in favor of Common Core, a man who's weak on immigration, Jeb Bush, and a guy like Walker, who, frankly, his state is having tremendous difficulty. I love Wisconsin. It's a great place. But, you know, he's putting debt up to the gills. The school system is a disaster because they don't have any money. I mean, you know, Walker State, Wisconsin, is a catastrophe from an economic and a financial standpoint. I think he's number 36 or 38 overall in terms of the country for economic growth, and his jobs projection were way off. I mean, beyond. They have budget deficits. He was going to have a lot of big surplus. Well, we've got a $2.2 billion deficit.
I hear you, Mr. Trump.
I just want Walker's in big trouble.
Just as a point of fact, I believe that the referral by the inspectors general was a security referral, not a criminal referral when it came to Hillary Clinton. But let's just leave that where it is. I do want to talk about immigration and illegal immigration, an issue that you've talked about a lot. You were at the border the other day. Assuming a President Trump is able to stop the flow of illegal immigration through building a wall or some parts of a wall, what do you think should be done with the estimated 11 million undocumented workers and their families already here? Would you be open-minded about a path to citizenship? Is that a non-starter with you?
Okay.
Where are you on that issue?
Fine. First of all, you said it. You have to stop it. You have to stop it fast, and we can do that. We can do that with combinations of walls and Border Patrol, who are phenomenal people. I met many of them when I was in Laredo, when I was at the border, and we can stop that, and fencing. But we can stop it with both construction and with physical. I mean, we can do a great job of that. Okay, I'm totally convinced, and it won't cost the kind of money. In fact, we'll save money because people that are coming in here that shouldn't be coming in here illegally, it will actually save money by doing it and doing it properly. Once that's done, we have a situation that is going to be done immediately. Before that's done, we're going to get the bad ones out. We have some really bad dudes right here in this country, and we're getting them out, and we're sending them back to where they came from. And I don't mean Mexico. I mean, they come from all over. They're not coming they're coming from all over. We have some real bad ones, and they're in our prisons that we're paying for, and they're walking the streets of San Francisco. What a horrible thing happened to Kate,
right.
And what a horrible thing happened to Jamil, the young man who was going to maybe go to Stanford and football player and the apple of his father's eye. Well, let me tell you something. We got to get rid of the bad ones are going to get out. Then from that point on, we're going to look very, very strongly at what we do. And I'm going to formulate a plan that I think people are going to be happy with. But we're going to look very, very strongly at what we do.
Okay, but you're not going to rule in or rule out.
I'm going to get rid of the bad ones fast.
Okay.
And I'm going to send them back. And we're not going to be putting them in prisons here and pay for them for the next 40 years.
But there are obviously,
we're going to send them back where they come from.
There obviously will remain, after you get rid of the bad ones, millions and millions of undocumented workers who are not bad ones, and their women and their children and their men who are here, who came here for a better life. But you're not going to yet take a position on whether or not you would favor a path to citizenship.
We're going to see what we're going to see. I mean, it's a very hard thing. I will say, from a moral standpoint, from a physical standpoint, you're talking about at least 11 million people. You know, I've heard the numbers much higher than that, because that number's been bandied about for years. 11 million, I've been hearing for years. It could be much more. But we're going to take the high ground. We're going to do what's right. Some are going to have to go, and some we're just going to see what happens. It's a very, very big subject and a very complicated subject.
I want to ask.
The wall is going to be built. The security. We're going to have a great border. People can come into the country legally, but not illegally. And the people that come in are going to be good people. They're going to be great people. And I want that. It's very important to me.
Of course, most of the horrific things that take place in this country are perpetrated by Americans. I want to ask you about this horrific shooting we just had in Lafayette, Louisiana. Here we have another case of someone with well-established mental health problems, somehow able to legally buy a gun. What do you think needs to be done to stop this?
Well, these are sick people. I mean, these are very, very sick people. This has nothing to do with guns. This has to do with the mentality of these people, and you know, you're always going to have. First of all, I'm a big Second Amendment person. I believe in it so strongly. You need protection. You need protection against the bad ones that have the guns.
But do you think
you
the Second
take
Amendment...
guns away from the good people, and the bad ones are going to have target practice. Like, for instance, the gun-free zone with the Marines, that was disgraceful. These are decorated people. These are people that know how to use guns better than anybody, and they're not allowed to carry guns, and this guy shot them. They were like sitting ducks the way that happened. It was a disgrace. And if they would have had their guns, they probably would all be alive, or most of them would be alive right now.
Well, I think a lot of
we
people...
have to protect our Second Amendment, and we can't take little chunk here. You know, they keep talking about take these little chunks out, and you have to be very careful about that. You know, we had prisoners escape up in upstate New York, which you covered very well for a long period of time. And the people up in upstate that didn't believe in guns, all of a sudden they all had guns sitting on their table because they were really afraid that these guys would break into their house. And they felt much better having the guns. So you need to protect the Second Amendment at all costs.
Do you think the Second Amendment guarantees the right of somebody like the shooter in Lafayette who had been involuntarily committed previously? Do you think the Second Amendment...
Well, you have to be careful. Look. Yeah. You have to be careful. If a person's mentally ill, you have to be very careful. You have a very fine line there, but you've got to do it very judiciously. But if a person's mentally ill, this one, I guess, from what I hear, had a big record of mental instability, and
right. Do you think he should be able to buy a gun? Do you
that.
think somebody like that should be able to buy a gun? Is my question.
I think that if a person is mentally ill and it's proven and documented, you have to be extremely careful not to let them kill people. You have to be careful. Frankly, he should be committed. I mean, you should put a person like that, because he has the kind of a record where he should be in, you know, he should be in an institution. He was a very sick puppy. There's no question about it.
Mr. Trump, before you go, thank you so much for calling in. I do want to make a plea for my fellow journalists out there. I understand you really didn't like an op-ed, or rather an editorial in the Des Moines Register, and you had an issue with letting reporters from the Des Moines Register get press credentials for your event. I would just, as a fellow reporter, like to make a plea for my brothers and sisters who are journalists. If you could not hold them responsible for what the editorial writers write, that would be great, and we thank you for calling in.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, this is a failing paper that's treated me extremely wrong. I mean, you know, they've lied in many stories, and we thought we'd do that. It has very little power. It's failing badly, and frankly, they're not good people. But I agree with you. That's called a little bit of the freedom of the press thing. But I agree with you 100% on that subject. But this was a paper that, you know, when they lie and lie and lie and knowingly lie, you say, well, let's just not, and they can go in. They just have to sit with everybody else. We just don't give them credentials. But I understand what you're saying.